Welcome back, guys. Fahir here from awesometoots.com. And when we were talking about functions, we saw that we have functions that can return values. Those values can be integers, booleans, floats, essentially are variables. Now, since we have covered arrays in the previous video, I also want to talk about functions and arrays. Arrays can be passed as parameters in functions, and they can also be returned by a function. So instead of the update here, because we don't need it, I am going to create here a void process array function. So process array, which takes an array of integers. So here, let me just open an array of integers and I'm going to call it data. And just like this, and this works. As you can see, we have no errors. If I go here, we don't have any errors. This is going to go away. This is not index out of range exception. This is from the previous video. Do not worry. And yeah, this is totally legit. And we can go here and we can now do something like for int I is equal to 0. As long as I is less than data.length, we can increment I and process this array. Now, if the array is not initialized, which we are going to assume that we did not add any values, so the default values to the array elements is 0, we are simply going to say data and the element at index I is equal to random. So random.range 0 and 100, just so that we give some value, and then we are going to say print and print that to the console. So the value is plus data and the element that's at index I. And now we can go in the start function, and here we can create that array. So we can say int array, and I'm going to call it my data. And of course, we can also name it data. So we can name it data. It does not matter how we name it right here. It does not affect this variable right here. So I'm going to call it data is equal to new int array of 10 elements. And now I can simply call here process. So process array, pass our data, and voila, just like that, magic happened, and this works. So it's gonna happen, or what is gonna happen is that we are gonna take this array data, which is this one, and process it here. Now don't be confused that I named this here data and I also named this data. This parameter here has nothing to do with this variable right here. This is just the name of the parameter that you give it. You can give it data, you can give it u1, you can give it however you want to give, but it does not have anything to do with this right here. So don't worry about it. Don't be confused. So parameter names depend on you and they don't have nothing to do with this. And now we are simply creating our own data array and passing it as a parameter here. And if I go here and hit the run button, let me just run our app and we're going to see the value is 28, 34, 21, up to the last value. I don't want to read all of this right here. But the point is that we can process these arrays inside of functions and we can pass them as parameters. Now we can also return them back. So we can create here another one. And I am simply going to comment all of this out, or actually remove that one and comment this out. And I'm going to call this one process arrays, but instead of void, we want to return an array of integers. So I'm going to call here or type an array of integers, and I'm going to call process arrays. We are not, or we are actually going to take some parameters, and that's going to be our int data like this. So int data, and we need a return statement. So we are going to return our data array. So I'm going to say return data like this. If I go in my Unity editor, we are not going to see any problems in the console because this code is totally legit. We are simply declaring here that we are returning an array of integers. At the end of the previous video, when we talked about arrays, you saw me that I have declared here int array data like this. This is totally cool and legit. We can do it, but this array has no value. This array is empty. It does not even have a single element. It's not even initialized. If we try to use it, we will get an error because we did not type it's equal to new and how many elements and so on and so forth. So what we can do, we can do all of that inside of this function right here. So I can do something like this. I can go here and take this data element or data parameter and can say data is equal to new int array of 10 elements, and I can process it. I'm gonna copy this for loop, paste it right here. Let me just uncomment everything and put it here like this. So I am gonna process this array here for int I is equal to 0 as long as I is less than data length I++, give every single element in that array its value, and then return that data array. So I can now go here and I can type our data, this one right here. So data is equal to process arrays, passing the data array inside of it. So we are passing the data array itself, and this is gonna process it, do all of this inside of that function, and put it simply back inside of that data array. If I try this now, so if I simply copy this for loop, and we can do it because the name of our array is data, so this is totally legit. If I try to simply print that, so I don't want to reinitialize it, but I only want to print it, I'm gonna copy the line of code below and simply put it here, and I only want to print everything. So I can go, and this is gonna work. So if I hit the run button, notice the value is 97, 49, 81, so on and so forth. If we try to do this without initializing the array, I'm gonna comment the line of code here, and it is not gonna be run by the compiler. Clear the console right here, run our app, and bam. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Don't worry about this too much. We are going to cover it when we start talking about classes and objects, but essentially this means that we have simply declared this array data right here. We did not initialize it. We did not give it any value. We did not type is equal to new int of 10 elements or 30 elements. And that's the reason why we get that error. And this is why I have created this function so that we can pass our data array inside of it, create it here, process it here, and simply return it back and put it inside of this variable. And now we can process it as a normal array. So in short, this was about functions and arrays, and showing you that not only regular variables like integers, strings, booleans, and floats can be returned by a function or passed as a parameter. We can also return arrays, we can pass arrays, and yeah, you just saw it. And again, I'm telling you, this is not only limited to integers, but I'm using integers as an example. You can do this with strings, with booleans, with floats. The same concept applies like I just did here. So yeah, this was about arrays and functions. Fahir here from awesometudes.com, and I will see you in the next video.